When a turn signal turns deadly, surviving Florida's road rage. I had started the day feeling like something dark was clinging to me, aching temples, heavy limbs, a dull funk that clung to my senses. It wasn't just my body misfiring, the weather was miserable, a gray, pounding drizzle that matched the pounding in my head. At work, amid the chaos of renovations, diesel fumes were seeping into every corridor. That heavy, sour stench, like soot mixed with exhaust, wrapped around me and sank me deeper into my own exhaustion. Finally, I decided it was time to go home. I slid into the fast lane, hoping that fresh air and the ride might ease the headache. But traffic, like everything else today, had other plans. I followed another car moving tediously below the speed limit, no reason, no chance to pass, just maddening vehicular inertia. Nothing else around, yet he refused to yield. My patience snapped. I signaled, edged into the next lane to pass, but as I was alongside him, he jerked his vehicle toward me without signaling. My car jolted dangerously close to the barrier. Heart pounding, I honked several times. The jerk behind me must have sensed my rising frustration, because he slowed again, letting me pass. But he wasn't done. As soon as I moved ahead, he sped up and threaded dangerously close behind me, tailgating with intention. Rain lashed the windshield, the road glowed slick, and all I could think was, this is dangerous, stupid, unnecessary. I tapped my brakes, not enough to shock, but enough to say, back off, man. My head was throbbing, my nerves jagged. He responded by accelerating even more. Then, watching the same exit sign slip past, I realized he was following me off the highway. My pulse leapt into overdrive. And that's when I called my boyfriend. He was at the New World grocery near our house. I pulled into the lot, my heart beating in my ears. But before I even slowed to find a parking spot, this man appeared, sprung right from behind the car, yanking my door open and grabbing for my keys. I screamed. My boyfriend charged out, intervening. The man lunged toward him, hostile and unpredictable. I'm barely 21, and my boyfriend 22, but together, we didn't back down. He defended me while I yelled, trying to make sense of what was unfolding. This adult in his 40s or 50s, fueled by malice, a child crying inside his car, and him blaming me, insisting I'd tried to run him off the road. The audacity was unreal. I couldn't hold it in. You almost caused a serious accident, someone could have died. What the hell is wrong with you? His cool rebuttal broadsided me, you were behind me. I couldn't see. His line of defense, his refusal to accept responsibility for following dangerously, felt almost surreal. I was furious. If you can't drive, if you can't watch the road, if you can't use your damn eyes, then why are you even driving? Security finally arrived, but only after the fact. Cops came soon after. Checking statements, calming nerves. By some miracle, everyone was okay, though shaken to the core. The whole thing was surreal, weather sucked, body ached, and then a man tried to steal my keys over something that never happened. We were shaken. I felt every aching muscle intensify, every sugar-high cortisol crash defending myself and my boyfriend from a rage-fueled stranger. It should have ended there, but morally, the impression lingered. What does someone gain from this? An adrenaline rush? A way to feel powerful? Or was it twisted stuff, hurt, fear, fragile ego? I'll never know. The police asked questions. I recounted every word. He said, she tried to run me off. I repeated over and over. He followed me, opened my door, grabbed my keys. The officer's face stayed professional, no judgment, but his notebook lines emphasized my quiet dread. Why did this happen? Maybe blurred lines between bravery and entitlement, accelerated by stress and entitlement. In other days, afternoons, I might have written it off as a freak accident. But today, I felt the urgency, to question how some people feel entitled to follow strangers into parking lots, to demand accountability that's misplaced and dangerous. My boyfriend stayed calm under pressure, a rock against a wave of absurdity. He reminded me, this isn't on you. You drove responsibly. He overreacted. Hearing that from someone you love can pull you back from the edge of self-doubt. That night, I lay awake, mind replaying everything. I thought about that man's child, how frightened she must have been, trapped in that car while her parent acted unhinged. It hurt thinking of her confusion. But I also realized how fortunate I was. Security arrived, even late. My boyfriend was there. No one was hurt more than shaken hearts and bruised nerves. I learned something fundamental about myself. Fear doesn't erase strength. In just moments, I went from headaches and diesel stench to defending myself from a bale of rage, and I survived. I learned to spot the red flags, to lean on support, to trust my mutual strength and awareness. I learned not to minimize fear, but to know it doesn't define me. The next day, I drove slower, eyes sharper, heart lighter. The headache throbbing less. The weather still ugly. But I carried something more, something like a quiet vow. If someone tries to intimidate me for no reason, I'll stand firm. If someone drives dangerously, I take responsibility for my safety, adjust my speed, give space, steer clear. If someone crosses the line, I'll call for backup. My truth isn't less powerful because I'm only 21. That night, as I drifted to sleep, I felt oddly proud. Not of the fight. Not of the anger. But of surviving, of learning, of waking tomorrow ready to steer forward. The diesel smell will linger. So will the ache. And maybe a kid somewhere will wake up in fear because her parent acted irrationally. But I'll wake up, quieter but wiser, stronger than yesterday. The morning after the chaos felt different, quieter, fraught with echoes. My body still throbbed, every muscle remembering the strain of adrenaline and fear. Even the diesel smell seemed sharper as I drove to work, my hands gripped the wheel tighter, my senses on standby. That drive to the park, a place meant for escapism, felt loaded, as if the incident had reframed every lane and intersection. On shift, the renovations continued, heavy machinery growling, diesel fumes drifting into the walkways. It reminded me that discomfort is rarely singular, it compounds. My headache from yesterday mixed with fresh anxiety, an uneasy cocktail of dread and determination. But something had shifted, where before I felt overwhelmed, now I felt alert, solid. I'd navigated fear. I'd called out against irrational aggression. That gave me strength. Throughout the day, little moments became checkpoints in my healing. A friendly wave from a guest whose morning I helped brighten. A coworker checking in, noticing my quietness. A child offering a half smile when I gestured politely. These small exchanges reminded me that courage doesn't always roar, it sometimes walks quietly forward, step by steady step. Late afternoon, I decided to change up my routine. Instead of the usual playlist on the commute, I opted for calm podcasts, stories about resilience and healing. I read insights on safely handling road rage, practical advice that grounded me: keep windows up, stay visible in public spaces, document details. I felt empowered with knowledge and foresight. That evening, I parked a little further from home, out in the open, under bright lights. It was intentional, not paranoia, but practicality. I double-checked that my phone battery was full, noted my boyfriend's tense eyes when he pulled up beside me. Then I leaned my head against the steering wheel and took a deep breath, slow, deliberate, as if I could inhale courage and exhale fear. Over dinner, we didn't dwell too long on the why of it all. We spoke in simple truths: I'm okay, thanks for being there, we'll be cautious. In his eyes, I saw pride, not for the fight itself, but for the fact that I stood my ground, asked for help, and came out stronger. We toasted with water in paper cups, a quiet celebration of survival, not silence. Before bed, I wrote a little in my phone's notes app, a non-judgmental log: the incident, how it happened, how I responded, how I feel now. Sometimes you need words to let feelings breathe. By the time I hit save, the ache had softened, replaced with purpose. I realized then that safety comes from awareness, not fear. From preparation, not paranoia. From connection, not isolation. And from knowing that help is closer than you think. Tomorrow, I'll drive into work again. More renewal, more diesel, more shifts. I might still face exhaustion, or a driver's road rage trigger. But today, I feel fortified. And that's enough. The next morning, I woke with a dull ache lingering in my shoulders and temples, a stubborn aftershock of adrenaline and fear. But as I sat behind the wheel, waiting at a red light, my mind felt sharpened. I was more alert. Though the sky remained gray, I carried a new kind of clarity: preparedness. I found an article online quoting Jacksonville police in Illinois. They responded to 6 to 12 road rage incidents monthly, and nearly 80% of drivers had experienced road rage in a single month. That statistic pulled me into a broader current. This isn't isolated. It's part of a national surge. According to data, road rage-related fatalities in the U.S. have skyrocketed: shootings, murders, injuries, all rising steadily over the past decade. Even tailgating and honking, once trivial, are major triggers. Knowing I wasn't alone in confronting this madness gave me perspective. Knowing how common it was didn't minimize the trauma, but it spurred me to act wisely. I absorbed practical advice: call the police if I feel threatened, maintain distance, and avoid eye contact. I found suggestions to manage my own stress: podcasts, breathing techniques, calming music, all of which helped in that tense driveway standoff. As the day wore on, I noticed how my stance had changed. I drove a little slower, signaled deliberately, gave space when merging, even if that meant someone might get ahead. I no longer felt rushed, I felt in control. Each careful decision reinforced a sense that I could influence my own safety. Back home, I sat with my boyfriend to plan. We created a checklist: well-lit parking, phone fully charged, emergency contacts ready. We discussed calling the cops sooner if something felt off. It wasn't fear driving us, it was empowerment. That night, I felt more grounded than I had in days. The headache subsided. The diesel smell felt less suffocating. In its place, a quiet resilience bloomed. I realized the worst didn't define me, the way I respond to it would. The day after my deep dive into safety practices, I pulled into a quiet spot before heading home and let the rain drizzle across my windshield. The chaos of the previous days had faded, replaced by something calmer: purpose. I felt equipped, not just by survival instincts, but by knowledge. And sometimes, that's the difference between fear and confidence. I'd read alarming statistics. By October 2024, 116 people in the US had been killed in road rage shootings, already surpassing 2023's total of 109. A decade of data showed over 3,000 shootings tied to road rage incidents, with nearly 800 fatalities. Those numbers weren't distant tragedies, they were proof that a parking lot scare could spiral into something far worse. But the very same research offered guidance. Most aggressive confrontations begin with tailgating, honking, or rude gestures, precisely the moves I'd encountered. Defensive driving experts recommend strategies I'd started using: stay calm, give space, avoid eye contact, and, most crucially, don't retaliate. The 2-second rule for safe following distance is more than old advice, it's practical armor. That evening, my drive home felt different. I played soft music and reminded myself to breathe: deep inhales, slow exhales, anytime anger bubbled. I practiced keeping at least 2 seconds behind the car ahead and used my turn signals with intention, small signals of respect, meant to avoid triggering someone else's frustrations. I replayed a mental list of what-if plans. What if someone tried to follow me again? I'd drive to a public space, call the cops immediately, keep windows up, and stay in the car. What if I felt cornered? I'd honk, accelerate safely to signal distress, never slam brakes or escalate. These were open-source survival strategies, empowered choices. By morning, convoying toward work through the rain, I felt centered. A coworker greeted me with a nod, no need to ask, yet both knew I'd shifted. I kept my spiel calm and steady, processing guests' exit lines with renewed awareness and softer energy. That evening, we rolled out our plan at home: reflective, honest, unafraid. We committed to always park under lights, maintain our communication, and call for help before fear could escalate. Standing by the car again after dinner, a soft breeze coaxed the rain off the leaves. I realized something: navigating danger isn't just about reacting, it's about preparing, learning, and adapting. Whatever came next, I wouldn't be unready. In a world where nearly every driver faces road rage triggers, and where violence can erupt from emotional tit-for-tat, we have a choice. We can fuel the fire, or we can extinguish sparks before they ignite. And every careful signal, every safe lane change, every deliberate breath, that's resistance. The morning after I entrenched safety habits, I dove into researching the broader reality of road rage, and what I found was stark. Nationwide, the phenomenon has reached staggering proportions. A recent report from the Zebra revealed that a whopping 96% of drivers had witnessed road rage in the last 6 months, and 82% had personally committed an aggressive act in the past year. Even more sobering, 116 people had already been killed in road rage shootings by October 2024, a sharp increase from 109 in the same period in 2023. Between 2014 and 2021, over 200 murders and 12,000 injuries were tied to road rage, with firearm involvement in roughly 37% of incidents. Florida, it seemed, was ground zero. Recent headlines show drivers opening fire over simple disagreements, like someone failing to signal or tailgating dangerously. On June 2nd in Bradenton, an altercation intensified after a missed turn signal, culminating in a teenager firing a gun. Earlier this year, a Lamborghini driver on the turnpike shot at another motorist who brake-checked him. And in March, a man opened fire on a semi-truck on State Road 60 near Grape Hammock Road, later charged with attempted murder. Even a former MLB player was arrested after throwing rocks during a parking lot confrontation. The space between frustration and violence had collapsed, fast. Understanding this helped me do more than survive, it allowed me to be intentional. I didn't want paranoia, I wanted preparedness. Every calculated decision, from using the 2-second rule to keeping my doors locked, became preventative armor, not a reaction to fear. The moment I dug into data and real-world incidents, the road rage I faced wasn't an anomaly, it was a storm gathering momentum across Florida and the nation. The ugliness I experienced in that parking lot and on the highway had eerie echoes: missing turn signals leading to shootings, tailgaters turning into armed aggressors, and even children caught in the crossfire. In Bradenton just weeks ago, a routine failure to signal a left turn erupted into a violent confrontation. One driver rammed another's vehicle, confronted the other motorist, and a 16-year-old passenger fired a shot into the aggressor's Jeep, injuring him. That incident led to multiple felony charges for aggravated assault and battery. Even more shocking is how widespread this behavior has become. A report from Florida's Fort Myers region shows that statewide incidents of aggressive driving spiked by 21%, from 17,593 in 2018 to 21,296 by 2022, with 92% of drivers witnessing road rage and 89% personally experiencing aggressive driving in that same period. Florida also ranks particularly high in firearm-related road rage incidents, about 2.2 per 100,000 residents, making up nearly half of the state's fatal crashes. And the violent episodes keep rolling in. In Deltona, a man shot into another car's passenger compartment after claims of tailgating. In Bradenton, Vegas-style confrontations across interstate lanes, even machete-wielding tailgaters in Lee County. Perhaps the most harrowing examples involve children, kids seated quietly in the backseat while danger unfolded around them. One case in Crescent City saw a 5-year-old shot during a road rage shooting. Another, in Nassau County, involved fathers shooting at each other and accidentally wounding the other's daughter. Yet another in Cape Coral featured a tumbler-throwing gunman raining threats and bullets, all while parents struggled to protect their children. Even if the headlines don't mention those details, locals on Reddit have chronicled endless stories of tailgating, near accidents, and fear in the drizzled daylight. One user from Port Orange recalled a road rager following 2 teens to their home and attempting to run over the father in the driveway. Another joked about gun brandishing in Port St. Lucie, summarizing, "This is Florida now." That parking lot drama I lived through was a jolt, but it was only a ripple in a much larger wave that's crashing across Florida's roads. 2 incidents in particular stand out, both chilling and very real. At around 3:20 p.m., in the Riverfront Boulevard parking lot, Racian Poole, 33, paused in his Jeep Compass to turn, and then confronted Anthony Williams, 20, who hadn't signaled his Buick's turn into the lot. Poole backed up, stepping out to argue. Williams and his 16-year-old passenger exited. Williams allegedly brandished a gun, and Poole tried to drive away, only to reverse into a stop sign, strike a tree, and hit Williams in the leg. That's when the teen pulled out a handgun and fired into Poole's Jeep. Ultimately, all 3 were arrested, Poole charged with aggravated battery with a vehicle, the teen with aggravated assault, and Williams facing potential charges. A surveillance clip shows it all, Poole darting back and forth before accelerating toward Williams, crash, then gunfire erupting. In Estero, Lee County, 33-year-old Philip Marks Miuski tailgated a woman for blocks while flashing headlights. Upon reaching via Rapallo Drive and via Villaggio Parkway, he stepped out wielding a machete. Brandishing the blade inches from the driver, he fled before deputies arrived. Authorities tracked him down and charged him with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Details paint a terrifying image: a machete-wielding stranger emerging from traffic, a blatant threat meant to intimidate. I've told you my story: tailgated, door ripped, man unhinged, but when I dove deep into the news, I saw it wasn't just me. In Bradenton, a driver confronted another over a missing turn signal, rattling wheels, guns emerged, and a teenager fired in panic, all before the vehicles even moved, ending in arrests, shock, and shattered egos. In Lee County, a 33-year-old tailgater drove another woman to tears before stepping out with a machete, wielding violence in broad daylight until deputies detained him. These stories weren't headlines, they were warnings. Road rage isn't just honks and brakes, it can spiral into madness with deadly weapons, in parking lots, and estimates that a missing blinker could cost a life. That's the mirror I saw crack that day. I'm just 21, but I've learned that fear isn't the answer, preparedness is. I drive the 2-second rule now. Signal early, give space, and most crucially, don't argue. If someone flips, I stay cool, I call it in, I park where people are. I trust in light, in witnesses, in my voice that said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" Because I saw what could have followed. I sleep with a notebook beside me, not for nightmares, but to map out scariness, to catalog calm choices. That's how I take back my power, not by bravado, but by intention. Road rage is not rare, It's erupting all over Florida. It turns tempers into weapons, signals into shooters, breaking into death threats. But there's another choice, a better one. By staying aware, driving deliberately, and refusing to escalate, we transform roads from killing fields into pathways. I survived a chaotic parking lot. I faced cold aggression and a man who didn't care who watched or where his door landed. But I walked away alive and wiser. It's not luck, it's choices made before trouble even found me. So here's my final message: no flashing lights, no weapons, no violence. Just me, a calm wheel, two bright headlights, and a heart that knows being cautious is not cowardice, it's courage.